Well, Razorback fans, you got yourself another SEC victory. It wasn't pretty at times. It was really frustrating to watch at times, but I actually feel really good. And I'm going to tell you why here on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Hope everybody's having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Thursday. I'm going to get my days mixed up at least. But there's a lot to talk about, and we'll get into some of that, not only specific players and talking about Big Z, and he had a big game last night, as well as some talk about the crowds and whatnot, because I got to bring it up again. I'm sorry. But hey, we got to talk about the game. Arkansas wins. They beat LSU 70-58, the final score in this one. And honestly, a lot of you who were at the game and watched the game, it was not fun. There was times it got frustrating. You wanted to pull your hair out. You just didn't understand what was going on. You didn't understand why the breakdowns were happening, especially on defense and all of that. But at the end of the day, you won. You had a great game by Big Z, which again we'll talk about here in a second. He had 25 points in this game. Nelly Davis had a 4 of 13 game with 11 points for him. Yeah, DJ Wagner also had 10 points, but 7 assists. It's almost scary how little I thought about the assists that he had, but he had 7 assists, 3 rebounds for him. John Davis also had 3 steals, by the way. So you had that. You also had, Carter Knox. He went 4 of 5 from the field with 8 rebounds. So he had 9 points and 8 rebounds and a block shot and a steal. So and kind of a quiet, good game there out of Carter Knox. Sometimes he's a player that you just forget about, but you got him in the mix. Billy Richmond, I really liked what he was able to do. He only had 4 points in this game, but still, in 22 minutes of play, at 4 assists, 3 rebounds. Defensively, man, he's really good on the outside, and he's really developed. I don't want to try to make any sort of comparisons that people may get upset by because it's weird, but he almost reminds me of a little bit of like a Devo Davis, back in his freshman year and whatnot, where he was just so active and energized and getting after guys and causing a lot of problems for him. Like, that's what it really reminded me of. So he's coming along really well. Duthiero did not have a great game, statistically speaking, at least, comparatively speaking to what he's had. He goes 2 of 8 from the field, 6 points, 7 rebounds, did have 3 assists. But just still, it seemed like everything was a little bit off for him. So didn't have much out of him. And again, you won, and that's really at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You won the game, and that's really what I wanted to talk about. Arkansas in this game missed 11 layups. They went 9 of 20 from the layup line, which to me was the most frustrating thing. I'm not saying that you're going to make every layup because sometimes it gets contested, sometimes you miss it, but just the amount of ones that you feel like they got to make, they just couldn't make. And Cal was fired up. I had some really good seats, which shout out to Andres for that. I really appreciate you, man. So I got to kind of hear and see Cal during the entire game. And that dude was infuriated throughout the entire game. Screaming at guys, yelling at guys, pushing them, which, I get it because it was a frustrating game at times and everything. And then Cal didn't do the press conference afterwards, which I'm not a fan of. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a fan of that. I never will be a fan of that. I understand if there's certain circumstances, but I think Chin Coleman's the one that did it, and it's just, I don't know. I don't really like that type of thing, but it's neither here nor there. You won. So when you win a game like that, everyone's going to say, oh, well, you win, wins, you'll take it. But then some people are going to be like, well, that was a terrible game, and LSU's a terrible team, and you should have blown them out. You should have done a lot better, because I even did a podcast yesterday, talking about that, saying, hey, Arkansas, you need to blow out LSU. I want to see a convincing victory. I want to see something where you play 40 minutes from beginning to end and you just take care of business. Well, you didn't get that. But after the game, I felt differently. I thought that after watching the game, I'd be a frustrated person that would be like, geez, that should have not have been as close as it was, or geez, this team is still having their issues and all of that. And it's not to say they're perfect. But It's all about where you were and where you're at now and where you're going. Arkansas in this game, this particular game, didn't play their best, had some struggles, and they beat an SEC team by 12 points. You could even say they slept-walked through this game, and they won by 12 points. Why is that significant? Because they haven't done that all year. Usually in games like this earlier in the season when they played this poorly, they either lost or lost big. But they didn't this time. And as weird as it is to say and as weird as it is to think, it gives me the vibes that this is still a good team. Where you can play that badly, have those missed shots, those missed opportunities, have all of that, and still win. I'll keep saying it, that at the end of the season, if they're trying to consider Arkansas to be getting into the NCAA tournament, none of them that are getting in with the committee or all of that is going to say, well, you remember that time that they played so badly against LSU? You know, hey, we got to do something about that. No, they're not going to say that. They're going to be like, hey, they beat LSU. They didn't lose to a bad team. They beat a team. And I get from the element and from the angle that you want to see your team perform better at home because Arkansas has not. They have not performed well at home this year, especially in a lot of different cases. But overall, I felt good. Now, they got a tough test in front of them with Texas A&M and College Station. It's a tough place to win. And Texas A&M is a top 10 team. And that's what's kind of the crazy thing about it is Arkansas has actually had a pretty good balance in the SEC of home games and tough home games and tough road games. But that's definitely going to be an interesting one that happens at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. But I still believe that this team's got something to play for. I still believe they got something going for them. And right now they're at 4-7, which, you know, before they were sitting at 14th in the SEC, that jumped them up at this point in time to being 11th in the SEC. And they're just one game behind teams like Mississippi State and Vanderbilt and just really getting close to Kentucky. You know? So they're working their way up. They're getting there. They're getting there. They're doing the right things. You've done a good job of winning some of these games. And now, these next two ones are going to be ridiculous. Like, A&M is going to be tough as it is. But then Auburn, which, for those who don't know, I'm going to be down there for that. I'm going to be down there for the Auburn game. So we'll see how that goes. Sheesh. But I don't want to sit here and try to say that, I think Arkansas will win. I don't know. I feel like Arkansas can win one of those games, and I think it's going to be A&M. If they beat A&M, folks, they're in the tournament. Let's just freaking ride. Let's go. Like, they're road warriors, because that's what it seems to be. This team plays so much better away from Fayetteville, which sucks, and you don't want that to happen, but it's true. They play really well away from Fayetteville. So maybe that'll carry over. Maybe that'll happen. And what's really going to be a problem is if they beat Texas A&M, I'm going to start believing that they can beat Auburn. I don't think they will. Auburn's just too good. They're a machine. But then you got Missouri at home, who's a really good team, but you got them at home. You got Texas at home, which you should beat. You should win against South Carolina. Vanderbilt's always tough, but I think it's a very winnable game. And then you got a home against Mississippi State, which I think is extremely winnable. You're in a good spot, man. You're in a good spot to where you've lost games, but even in games now that you're not playing well, you're still finding ways to win. And that's what I appreciate, and that's what I respect. That's what good teams do, is that even when they don't play their best, they still win. And that's what happened last night. Arkansas didn't play their best, but they still won. They still got it done. They still got the job done overall. And at the end of the day, you got to be excited about what could the future be, where this team's going to go, and who's going to be the biggest part about it. And there's actually one particular player that has to be part of it that continues to get better and better as the games go on. And we're going to talk about it. So let's take a break here because we're going to talk about Big Z on the other side of it. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Folks, we'll get to that. But I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip or you want a fourth quarter comeback or whatever it may be, you can stay in on the action. And you're looking for a bigger payout? Well, you can even combine your live bets into the same game parlay. You know, I love using this betting feature for FanDuel, and it's always fun to see and how to keep the games exciting and everything. And it doesn't matter what your teams are, and it doesn't matter what sport it is. It could be college basketball, it could be the NBA, it could be Major League Baseball, which is going to be starting up before you know it. And college baseball, the Razorback baseball team starts up this weekend. So there's always going to have a lot of great things to do and different parlays to hit with FanDuel. So right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your one shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Let's talk about Big Z, man. Big Z. I almost didn't even realize it until close to the end of the game when I was there. Just how impressive he was offensively, where he had 25 points on 10 of 13 from the field in 28 minutes. This dude didn't play 30 minutes. He didn't play three quarters of the game. But he hit 10 of 13 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3, hit both of his free throws, had 3 rebounds, had 4 blocked shots and 1 steal and only 1 turnover, and only 1 foul. I'm telling you, there is something special about seeing a player like him actually live up to a little bit of like what he could be, because we talked about it earlier. In the beginning part of the season, man, he just looked bad. He looked lost. He looked not very like physical at all. Like there was just so many things that he looked like he was just a deer in a headlight. Like it just didn't look like he was a college basketball player, at least not a high level one. And then something has snapped and something has come out, and he's really coming into his own. I don't know if it's going to be realistic for them to keep up this type of shooting and this type of great play. Like, I don't know if that's the case. But you think about the type of weapon that you have with Big Z. How do you guard a guy who's 7'2", 7'3", and that can hit threes as good as anybody in the country? I mean, the guy's shooting 44, 45% from 3 on the season. How do you guard that? How do you guard a guy that has a lot of touch underneath the rim to where he can just put it in? And he's so much taller than you and so much longer than you that you have no response. You can't do anything with it. How do you guard that? Now, Arkansas has some good players that can do some good things. We've seen Nelly Davis do it. We've seen Adu Thiero do it. We've seen a freak athlete like Trevin Brazil at times do it. Like, we've seen guys really, really put it together and really be good. But when you have a weapon like Big Z, to where it's such a hard thing to prepare for, keep feeding him and keep letting him do his thing. I know Cal's going to do that. And I know you can't play a guy who's 7'2" for 20 minutes a game, or 40 minutes a game. I know you can't do that. But, man, when you're able to go out there and perform the way you do at that type of high level, people are going to have to focus on you. Other opposing defenses are going to have to look at you and be like, hey, we got to figure out how to stop this guy. And when they start compensating for that, that's going to open up other guys. I mean, he just changes everything. And he's one of those guys, too, where as crazy as it is, and it just seems so weird of where everything was just a little bit ago, he's one of those guys that when Arkansas needs a bucket, I want to go to him. I want Arkansas to find something. When he lets go of 3, no matter where it's at, no matter how many people are on him or how well he's being guarded, I'm okay with it. I'm great with it, actually. I want it to happen. And that's another thing that just changes so quickly. I'm glad that he's found his rhythm. I'm glad that he's finding his offense prowess because Arkansas has needed it. Now, I still think Nelly does some good things. Obviously, Thero has his moments. He didn't in this one. Offensively, at least. I'm talking about offensively. But it's just nice to count on somebody like Big Z that you can't have an answer for. You don't know how to guard him. You just hope and pray that he misses. So hopefully they continue to find offense with him. Hopefully they continue to run things through him and all of that. But he's one of the most fun players to watch, too. I love how the fact that he had a reverse dunk in this game last night. And it cracked me up because it jumped 5 inches off the ground. He's just so big. And some people are even concerned about, if he continues to get good like this and continues to have games, he's probably going to get drafted. But we want him to come back next year. Probably so. Probably so. I mean, if he gets drafted, I'm happy for him. I want him to go. We would all want to go if we were getting drafted into there. So that's fine by me. But I just hope and pray that this is still something that they can be consistent with. I hope and pray that they are now, as talking about other teams, having to change their behavior, change their setup, change their game plans, change the entire approach of what they do. And, man, that's just awesome. It's awesome to see. And I hope it keeps happening. I hope it keeps going. And who knows, maybe because he has such a good game, it opens up somebody like a randomly did DJ Wagner, or a Jonas Adu, who actually Jonas Adu didn't play too badly in this game. I know he struggled a lot, but 1 of 2 from the field, had a bucket. Had some good hustle plays. He only played 11 minutes, but had 5 rebounds, blocked shot. So, maybe that opens up one of the other big men too. But keep feeding Big Z, as weird as it is. Keep feeding Big Z each and every time. Feels good to say. All right, I'm going to talk about Bud Walton Arena on the other side of the break and the crowd and all that because it's got to be addressed again. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, guys, I tweeted out something that happened just when I was there at the game, and I was really disappointed with the crowd again. And I'm not trying to beat this dead horse or anything like that, but I just wanted to just kind of maybe give another thought on it because I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy that just complains about the crowds all the time. And maybe I'm just having too large of an expectation. Maybe it's because of how I got used to it at Bud Walton Arena for so many years. And I'm also want to clarify that I'm not blaming the fans. It's not, to me, it's still more of a U of A problem than it is a fan problem. But that's why I try to do whatever I can to give tickets away if people aren't going to use them. On my social media, I'll always tell, and that goes for all of you out there. If you have tickets to a Razorback game and you can't go and you're wanting to give them away or whatever, let me know and I will make sure they get used. I mean, I gave away probably 12, 14 tickets in this one. And, I know nobody wants to give them away for free if they spent money on them because they want to make some money back. I get it, but rather someone to use them than them go to waste, for sure. So it was just disappointing to see because I know that Wednesday nights, people bring that up and all that, but I just don't buy that excuse because no other school that's got a basketball program like Arkansas has that issue. And, and your team, someone brought up to me, it was like, well, this team's 3-7. What do you expect? It's like, yeah, but they're still in the tournament. They're in tournament talk right now. So it's not like they've been trash here recently, at least. But it's just disappointing. The crowd was good, though, that was there. The student section has been mid this year. I know there's a lot of reasons that go into it. But here's my fear, folks, and this is really what the point I wanted to bring up. This is my fear. My fear is that this new renovation they're going to do, whenever that is, they're going to feel justified in taking seats out because of games like this. When they do the reseating thing, which I still am not a huge fan of. I get it, but I'm not a huge fan of it. When they do the reseating, it's going to do nothing but make it worse. It's going to cause more problems, and the atmosphere is going to be lacking so much. And my biggest fear is that here in the next 3 to 5 years even, Bud Walton Arena is no longer the basketball palace of Mid-America. It's just another arena that you play basketball in. The gimmicks, the lack of energy that has had, the lack of organization in trying to get fans involved and fans knowing what they're doing and knowing how to do it, the lack of, it almost seems like they try to turn away some of the maybe older traditions or maybe the older things of what they've done. But I don't know. It's just, I don't feel like I go to a college basketball game like I did. It feels like so corporate and so, again, gimmicky and NBA-ish. And like people were talking about how many hog calls were happening. I think I counted 3. But it's like people just don't know what to do. There used to be an understanding. There used to be just a, hey, we know we do this when this happens. We know we do this when the band plays this. We know how we handle it. Like, we know what goes on. Like, we know how to approach it. And it's just not there. And that's what I fear the most, is that it's just going to be this for the rest of the way. And the U of A is going to use the lack of attendance as justification for them to completely restructure Bud Walton Arena and make it into truly like an NBA, just another arena where they can do other things in it too. It's going to lose this. It's going to lose the magic. It's going to lose what's special about it. And that's what I fear. Now, I could be completely wrong. I could be being way over dramatic about this. I could be completely just off my rocker here. And I really hope I am. I really do. But y'all know how I feel about the trust of the U of A and doing things right. I've lost a lot of it, if not all of it, for them. Like, anytime I see something new, I'm like, they're going to screw it up. And I hate that. Like, I hate having that feeling. I want to believe that I once had a belief that every single thing that the University of Arkansas and the athletic department did or wanted to do was always good intentioned with the fans. Even if it wasn't. I believed it still was. I believed that that's what mattered to them the most. But I don't have that anymore. The intentions aren't with the fans. The intentions are with whatever gives us our money right now and whatever we think is best. And we're not going to listen to you because you're just a bunch of small town hicks. Leave it to the professionals up here who, we got our bachelor's degree from Phoenix Tech. We know how to do marketing and we know how to appeal to people and stuff. I fear that, man. I really do. And this will be the last thing I say on it. I don't know ball, as I've said, but I know people. And the thing I've prided myself on a lot is just, it's not my way of speaking and it's not my way of knowing the ins and outs of all these sports and knowing, all these things. I pride myself in believing that I know what fans, what you feel, what you know, what you want, and addressing it and talking about it and relating to it because I want the same things. And so I know that I could do a lot of things that could really help out or change a little bit of the U of A. And it's not saying just because of me all knowing. I'm saying it's because I know what y'all want. I know it works. I know it doesn't work. I know what could be something that would get people hyped up and excited about things and to feel part of it again. Because I don't know if there's ever going to be a way to get the fans back into believing that the University of Arkansas and the athletic department knows what's best for them. At least not in the current state. So my point is like I'm done. I'm not going to complain about the crowds anymore. I promise I won't. I won't do it. I won't tweet about it. I won't call anybody out. I'll just unfortunately have to say, hey, this is just the way it is. Unless things change, and from the top especially, we're just going to have to deal with it this way. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. But appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like And subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have, and we'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel, tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.